Hey everybody, I'm Dave Womack from BirdTricks.
And I'm Landon from BirdTricks.
And today we're down in Texas working with Vicky and her son conure Sedona on harness training and stationing.
Today, Vanessa thought that she came to class to work on harness training with Sedona. However, once we learned a little bit about the background with the harness and some of the ways that it had kind of forcibly been put on and taken off, combined with the fact that Sedona was really pretty nervous, even just being on her very familiar Java tree in this space, we decided to pivot and work on overcoming some fears with some behavior extension and then send them home with some information on harness training.
So thinking that we were starting to work with harness training, we wanted to set ourselves up for success by having a flat surface that we can place Sedona on and be able to eventually place the harness there as well and target her around this flat surface and closer to the harness. And that plan did not go as we had hoped. It turned out that Sedona was really quite fearful of being on this flat surface in this environment and continued to fly to her owner. So we quickly pivoted to adding the Java tree, which is apparently where all the seeds and treats are delivered at home, and we added that on top of a chair. And so at this point, we were taking advantage of a known familiar area, and we thought, okay, let's see if we can start with it at that point. Well, then we discovered another fear with just getting Sedona to be able to target. We couldn't get Sedona to go past the little bowl because there's too much fear. So we removed the bowl to see if we could get Sedona to target past that area of the tree and over to another limb. All of this was in an effort so we could be set up for success, reminding you, again, to get the bird able to be close to the harness. Well, it turns out that Sedona was afraid of the little bolt that attaches the bowl to the tree. So this is where we moved into a behavior or training method that I call a behavior extension. And this is where we get the bird to its furthest willing point, we click and reinforce for a target, and then we add an extension to receive the treat. Meaning we might have a criteria to go 6 inches for the target, but 7 inches in total to get the treat. There's a psychological thing that happens here where the bird is focusing on a known behavior, but once they hear that bridge of the clicker, they almost let their guard down and forget about the next thing of just that fear is still there because they're focused on getting the treat. So we can extend that behavior much faster through these techniques. And as you can tell, we were able to quickly get over the fear of the bolt. We added the bowl back, and then we continued to work through the fear of overcoming the fear of the bowl and having her target around the tree with the bowl in the way. A little closer. How about there? And then the tree. So if you had executed your timing slightly faster on getting the treat to her before she had lost interest, you might have had a little bit more progress on it, yeah. And yeah. Oh, let's try not to pull it back. There you go. You can see that she'd get frustrated if you kept pulling it back. So once you pick that position, you can't pull back any further. Let's see if we can get maybe 2-3 more reps here.
I'm gonna need to refill my treats after this one.
Pull and treat. Right there, hold steady. And you probably could have waited an inch shy and just held it there and held it there and held it there. Awesome. And then hold still right there, yeah. Hold it, 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 hold it. Good. Break.
Ciao, thanks.
There we go. We let her hang out on you for a second since she wants to. Yeah, just let her be on you for, we'll pause there for now. That was a big thing to overcome.
Should I give her more?
Nope, you are part of the reward right here.
Okay. You are more.
She's like, you be more than safflower seeds. So this is a really important lesson. You might have heard us talk about a book called Raising an Emotionally Intelligent Child, where it kind of talks about how different parenting styles produce different types of kids. When our birds have a fear, like an irrational fear of crossing over a mole, then we need to pause and say, okay, let's work through this. And it's a great opportunity to build that emotional intelligence, which will build a more confident bird. And so in this case, since that bole's not gonna get her and the screw's not gonna get her, we need to recognize that yes, there's fear, but what tools can we have her communicate to us and how do we help her through it so that it no longer has to be a fear. And so that's what you saw through working past the screw and then just barely get past that bowl. We don't want to do it too much at once, or we're like basically saying, hey, your feelings don't matter, but we want to help her understand, hey, that's fear, let's work through it. And so that's cool. So that gets us a step closer to being able to do stationing.
On the surface, it may seem sort of unrelated to get to harness training by desensitizing the bird to a geometry, but in reality, harness training is a very big ask that requires a lot of trust and also desensitization to touch on the bird's body with something that's a foreign object. And so really it was important for us to desensitize her to something that was really common and also had a bunch of reinforcement history already in a new environment, to kind of gauge like how quickly does this bird overcome fears and how far can we push the bird without losing motivation or sort of just shutting down in general out of fear. And so we were really able to see the little training nuances between Vanessa and Sedona, where Vanessa was able to just slowly approximate things that were a little bit scary, get that behavior extension, and then we sent her home with some tools. It was like, let's just try to introduce some new things in the environment at home that are lower stakes. It's a big ask, again, to put the harness on the bird and get it to stick its head through something, lay that pressure on its body, start manipulating the wings, things like that. But if she can go home and introduce new novel objects with the same concept she learned here, eventually she's going to be able to make those slow approximations and introduce the harness in a way that really preserves their trust. One thing you could take home with you is sort of in the same approach that you're talking about of like extending behavior, overcoming, like this is probably not the environment to do it in because of all the factors you're talking about, but you could, like, when I train it, I like hold the harness down here. And if I can just even get close enough to just drop a treat in a bowl and back away and use positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement to get close, drop, and then just approximate getting even closer, but just especially because I anticipate based on what you've shared that she's going to be real freaked out by the harness.
Yeah.
But you could do this with another object, right? Like a cup or something, like just literally introduce her. Y'all call it like the noun experience, right? Where you just introduce new people, new places, new things kind of in this way. So I think I would try that at home, but I think you're going to get to use a lot of the tools you just learned about right here, where you're like, okay, how can I approximate and like extend a little bit, right? And then maybe the loop is open and you stick your hand all the way through it and give her the treat. And then each treat, you know, you're just extending that behavior a little bit until you build. What you'll build in a minute is maybe duration on the perch. You're going to build duration of her head through the hole and then it touching her, and just kind of micro approximations, and then you moving very quickly through those so that she's not having time to be like real panicky and reinforced by a bunch of other things.
Harness your inner Kayla for these moments.
Yeah, and so one of the things I'd like to show you when she's in an environment not to get freaked out is this harness, because putting my arm through it doesn't appear to be a possibility.
Because she's that freaked out?
No, because she's so, like,
It's too small a harness.
It's too small of a harness.
When she's away later, show it to me and we'll see if there's like because you can even use like the wing loop. Like it doesn't have to, just to get her literally used to a new thing.
Yeah, that's typically what we use over their head first, is like the biggest thing.
Okay.
Because now it's just like you aren't going to be in a panic of like, oh my god, I got it off your head. You know, you freaked out, I freaked out, we all freaked out. So when you use a really big section, or even make your own like loop, it's not actually, it's the leash. You can do that, and that way you would always just drop it off or whatever you need to do. But that's typically how we go about it. And I'm even thinking, like, from what Landon's saying at home, getting it to the point where it can be just on the boarding tree stand, like it's laying there and she's non-reactive. And then it's like I hung it from here and I'm target training you close to it and over it, and like you're so used to playing on this and coming onto it and being interactive around it that it's non-issue now, and now we get to harness train. But we have to go through all of that.
I want to expand on something Landon said too that ties into what we were doing. The fear or lack of confidence, I think, are hand in hand. There's a big gap between getting the confidence of this and the harness.
Yeah.
And so, like she mentioned, a cup or something else that Sedona is possibly afraid of, and build more confidence of how to overcome those fears. Treat that as like you do that for a month or a couple of weeks before even thinking about the harness. Like a couple of weeks is realistic.
But yeah, does that kind of give you an idea of kind of what to work on? It's just more desensitization and exposure. And it might be something where you have 5 things laid out that you're going to introduce to her that day, and she's nervous about the hat that you're wearing or the sweatshirt color that you have or the ring that you put on that morning. And you can totally use those things too. You can impromptu go, oh, does she seem a little uncomfortable with that? Let's work through it real quick.
Okay.
So one of the most important things for training when it comes to overcoming fear, or I use this a lot for flight training, is on this graph we want to maximize improvement over time. And so there's two lines. I want to have this redone in color, but the top line is the light gray line is confidence. So we're focusing on confidence. The line right below it are the skills. So if we're building confidence, those skills will follow and they'll track right in line with all of that. But the moment we focus on, like, let's say this is too scary of an object, we focus on a skill that's outside of their current abilities and they don't succeed, now they drop confidence and we don't get that time back, we're back over here again. And we have to rebuild that confidence and skills will follow. But if we ever prioritize the skill building before confidence, you're fighting a losing battle. It's important when you're working with your bird on overcoming fears, you don't go from 1 to 10 in one step. In other words, the harness training was a 10 based on how fearful this bird was of everything else. So if overcoming the fear of crossing over where the bolt was a fear level of 1, crossing past the bowl might be more like a fear level 3. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't send her home with the idea that, okay, now that we got past the fear of the bowl, let's go to a level 10 fear. And so we wanted to build confidence and repetition through overcoming fears with very simple objects that would be irrational fears, like, again, a bowl, and slowly approximate up to that level 10 fear, but doing it methodically, doing it slowly, and doing it in a way that's in the bird's best interest.
I got so much value today. I learned that I need to give Sedona more exposure to new things to help build up her confidence so her skill level can match. I will probably start just opening my awareness to see what kind of things triggers her to be a little bit apprehensive that I can start introducing and working with her, and then build on that and grow until she overcomes it.
Parrots are the third most popular pet in the entire world, yet the #1 most rehomed. If you're interested in joining our mission of saving parrots one person at a time, visit birdtricks.com to learn more about our parrot training courses, organic bird food, all-natural parrot toy line, and much, much more. When we know better, we do better. It's through you that we can help people offer only the best quality products to their parrots, along with the knowledge they need to live in harmony with their birds through permission-based training. Visit birdtricks.com today to learn more.